Hello again, this is Priscilla Batzell in Spring Hill, Florida at Expressionist Art Studio in the backyard. Good morning. And this is a painting I recently did as a class demonstration, and that's what I do when I have a private student. I do a few paintings and I get to keep them, which is awesome, and showing people what they'd most like to be doing. And my idea is to add stripes going through the... I wanted to put them across the front, but I don't want to lose any of the beautiful patterns. So what I'm thinking is that I'm going to just create some other paint colors, and to facilitate time, I've taken the tops off my bottles, and I have another painting in mind after this one, so I'm not too worried about having an excess of paint. Matter of fact, I think it would really help me facilitate time, because today I have time, but there's about to be 3 cold days in a row, and they're not good for painting, so this is going to help me out immensely. And I'm just going to use colors I love, and that's a theory I sort of try and stick with all the time. I also, if you might see, I've got white in there, and the white is meant to help the neon pinks and purples stay neon. They do dry darker unless they're near a lighter color like white. And I'm just going to keep putting colors in here. I'm just making a little old artwork right there in the dish. I think I'm going to need some Prussian blue, which is Grumbacher for me. I think they have other brands, but I've never seen it in any sort of less than thick or tubular formula. So when I mix that up in my containers, I usually start with the GAC 800 that I use in all of my paint mixes to keep the paint from cracking, right in the bottom. So when I add something thicker to it, I think I might have... Oh, really? Okay, fine. That's what I keep a wet rag for. You know what? That's also why I love spatulas. And these are my Princeton Art Tool Catalyst spatulas. And I hate wasting paint, so I'm not going to do that, to the best of my ability. Oh well, accidents do happen. Playing with accidental art, having an accident, there's a big surprise. Okay, so back to the chore at hand. I don't use nearly enough of my beautiful magenta red, and it definitely adds a nice added aspect. I just made up a cobalt blue. I'm trying to remember who I bought it from. I think it's a folk art, but I've never used a cobalt blue before. Usually when you're buying paint like I used to buy in the fluid form from like Golden, it's like $70 for that size container. I have a bee flying around me and it needs to be told to go away. So these are beautiful colors. I'm loving these colors. And what else do I want in there? Maybe a little more orange, and I don't want to talk the whole time away. That was weird. I wasn't sure what that was. That was a leaf coming down off the roof. If you heard it, sounded like a camera clicking in the background. Very strange. Spooky. Woo. Alright. So every time I look at that, I decide I want something different in there. But I can't have everything I want. Well, I can, but not all right now. Not at once. I'm just chattering away, chewing on your ear. And I'm going to do it now. I'm going to take this pan of color, which is not very deep, but I expect it to work anyway. And how am I going to start this? I am going to grab, I have little tiny scoops from Hobby Lobby, and we'll see how that works. And I also really do actually like dipping in my spatula. Maybe I'll start that way. So I'm just going to take my pan of color, and yeah, I got some paint on there. Okay, well, it's not going to matter in a minute. I'm going to take my spatula and try and lift it to a place. Now, there's no silicone in this mix, but because there's Floetrol in there, it will often create cells. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm very excited to try it. And I'm going to pick up some pink there, and I'm going to dribble it right into that mix. And maybe a little more yellow or something else. Because I can, because it's right in that dish. So that's where because I can comes in handy. And I get to decide where that stripe comes out on the other side. And I'm just going to spatula it into place. And I know the colors have sat next to each other gently. I'm going to want some more orange in there, I can tell right now. Gently enough so that they won't become muddy yet. And I can just, as I use the spatula, it will agitate the paint and help encourage cells. I haven't done this fill-in type, whoa, that wasn't what I wanted, fill-in type deal for a while, actually ever. Or I may have done some variation on the theme that I'm forgetting about. But I do love this painting. My head is probably right in your way, I'm so sorry. I didn't put any of my neon pink in there, and I want some right now because I like it and because I can. So I'm just going to touch right up to the edge. I don't usually do that, but in this case the paint is so well and truly dry that it's not going to run in. So that's why I'm allowing myself to put the paint right up to the edge. And if I happen to dribble on something, I can also wipe it up, which is a very nice bonus feature of these are cool stripes. Let's hope it's not overkill. I've imagined this, oh, I don't know, 10 times, so it's alright with me to go ahead and try. And the spatula is working like a charm, in my opinion, anyway. I notice I still have a bunch of people who decide to thumbs down me even if something's awesome, and I don't really understand you guys. Why don't you just go away? It's abstract art. Everybody's got an opinion, and everybody's entitled to theirs. But you don't need to share it with me. Thanks. That was probably unnecessary. So I'm loving the patterns I'm seeing forming here. Awesome. Just totally cool. I got some cells popping. Hopefully you can see all of that. Maybe I should have checked. And I can just go and keep picking the colors that I like, as opposed to being stuck with pouring anything into a specific position. I'm pretty sure this could take a while. But I like all that. I'm going to take some more black and put it over here to follow this black up here. And at any given point in time, if I don't see the colors I like in my dish, I will just go ahead and add more colors to my dish. I'd like that to look somewhat cohesive. I'm not sure that's the most graceful stripe ever, but oh, and this is refuse. This container right here is just something that is found and taken from the trash. I can't remember what came in it, but it's a nice little shallow pan, and so you don't need anything specific. I used to use a bead tray. I still do once in a while, but I don't see any necessity to it. If I have a shallow dish, I like the shallow dishes. How about that? The shallow dishes hold more paint patterns on their surface, more easily accessible to me. Sorry, I try and keep talking to you guys because the silence today is deafening. It's so strange. There's no birds, there's no motorcycles, there's no airplanes. It's just super quiet and kind of strange. I'm not used to it at all. No chimes blowing, no breeze at all. Actually, it makes me want to turn my fans on. It's just barely come up to temperature. But as soon as it hits 70 in Florida, then the next thing that happens is that it's 80 somewhere in the sun, or 90 or 100, no matter how cool it is in the shade. Now I'm just blathering at you. I'm trying to take my time so that I get what I want everywhere I want it. But that's just a process that's taking me some serious time, and I guess I could just decide to stop at a certain point in time. I'm just letting the paint that I pick up on my spatula just fall right off. It's sort of like scooping without any reservoir, i.e. the scoop, the physical scoop. I'm trying not to overly manipulate it because that will make some mud, and the colors are staying nice and bright, and I really like that. And if they're a little thick, that's cool. I mentioned that I use GAC 800, and that's why. Because if I want to use thick paint from a dish like this, from a reservoir, then I can be sure it won't crack when it dries. I'm just going to go down here and add a little more pink or purple, whatever that is. Then I could decide if I wanted to drag some spirals out, or tendrils I should call them, not spirals. I really need that to be a contrasting color to what's there already, to make that look like it's passing right through there. And I hope I'm not going to ruin the composition, to tell you the truth. I kind of liked it a lot before, the way it was. But I really need to know how this is going to work, and I've wanted to do it every time I've looked at it. I'm like, that wants to be an experiment. So I guess I can cross this right over this place on the end. Why not? It's looking like it needs to be crossed over. I'm very tempted to do that, more of that. I think it's almost time to wipe my spatula off, so I stop mixing the colors on the spatula and I get back to brights. And maybe it's also time to add a little orange right there. And because I like orange and pink together, that's the perfect time to do that also. Now, looking at this, I'm kind of thinking that there may be a necessity for putting a black edge so that there's a shadow behind. There's not that much room for perfection right here. I am thinking that I want that to go over here. You can slowly drag that spatula. The flat front spatula is great for all kinds of manipulations. Sideways. So we're just going to pretend that that segment that I'm adding here split two ways. It is what I want it to be. It is whatever I want it to be. And I can also add however many filaments I want. I just prefer them not to be muddy. So basically just concocting an entirely new composition from what I had by adding a bunch of cool stuff. And just following the lines to make it, yeah, this is cool, I'm happy. This is working out all right. I'm going to remember to wipe off my spatula a little more often. And I like this, I like where I added that extra filament, and I thought I was going to leave it thin, but I don't think so. I'm getting pretty close to being where I'm happy with my composition. I'm going to take a big scoopful and make some stripes as I allow that to slowly seep off the spatula. Slowly and cautiously, to a point. Less is more when it comes to pushing and pulling this around, because obviously you're going to go down to slick dry canvas, and also the chances are, as you agitate the paint, that you will mix the paint more than you want to. So I like that pink over here. I didn't really want them, the stripes I'm adding in the background, to blend with the ones in the foreground, but I'm pretty happy with my overall design. I'm like really happy with it, actually. And I could stop there. I really could. I don't know what else it needs. I kind of want to put some other filaments, but I don't think that they're going to add anything. I could do dots. I don't think spirals are appropriate. This goes way far over here, so I think I'm just going to let that fill itself right in. Scrape my spatula off and use my finger to touch the edge up. Yeah, that doesn't bother me a bit. I've got some slightly mucky orange over there, but I think in the grander scheme of things, to change it isn't necessarily here. That'll fix me. Add a little bit of pink to things and just drag it in and know that heavier paint will heal itself. You can't stop it from filling back in, really. What else? Anything else? Maybe. Maybe I want something right here, and I'll see how I feel about it once I get it there. I'm going to just touch my spatula. Actually, I'm going to scrape my spatula off at the top with fairly fresh colors so they don't mix too much. And we are almost to a point where I'm feeling that I'm going to be very satisfied with my result. I love the agate way that the paint works. And maybe I'll just do that little point down there. That might be cool. Let's see, do I want more of a line? Yeah, I'm just going to finish it. I'm just going to let it taper though. Be a little different than everything else. Just a little. Yep, that's okay. I'm happy with that. Well, looks like I'm supposed to widen it a little. I don't need any drips, I really don't. There's some color I like right there. And I will tell you, because I have a couple of minutes left before the timer, well, the timer's going off, but I have a couple of minutes left anyway. My camera shuts off at 20 minutes if you ever wonder why. I only make 20-minute videos. I actually make 20, 40, and 60-minute videos, or some variation on that theme. And I'm going to call that done. Well, pretty well done, if I can stop myself. I like this over here, so I'm going to give myself permission to add a little more in that corner. And I like that. But you can see how I made the first ones. The first stripes were actually made with, and I have one handy, I think a shovel and a pan of color, just like I just showed you. And I'm pretty happy with all of this, I gotta say. It turned out kind of exactly like I was hoping it would. You can still paint without spatula pretty easily. That filament's not bothering me, but whether I want any more is beyond me. Maybe I do. So I still haven't told you about my Teespring, and I've been adding some great art to Teespring, and every time you buy something it helps me at the studio just a little bit. Same for Amazon. If you shop the Amazon link, it doesn't cost you anything extra, and eventually over time it adds up to help me out, and I appreciate that very much. And I am going to add just a little bit of a filament to see if I need to. So at the bottom of the video, underneath the description that includes the pouring recipe for my paint, are 3 volumes of Facebook albums that show the wet and dry artworks from YouTube. I'm going to torch to release the bubbles in the paint I just put down, kind of low, making sure that I'm hitting only the wet parts, because if I hit the dry ones, it's probably not going to be helpful to them. And that will also allow some cute little cells to form, which I'm seeing happen right in front of my eyes. And I love that part. It's sort of like doing magic. You could go in and you could probably hit the wet paint with your finger or any tool to agitate it, or put some spirals in there or something, and that would be kind of cool too. So I do sell my artwork, and artwork is beginning to sell, so if there's something that you love, grab it quick before somebody else does, because the best stuff is going first. And the very best stuff sort of has a premium attached to it, but everything else is probably the $1 square inch price for fluid acrylic pouring art. Other art is priced differently because it took a lot longer to make, and that's not the typical market pattern. So I'm good. Right now, I mentioned Teespring clothing, I mentioned Amazon shopping, I mentioned recipe, I mentioned selling artwork, I mentioned showing artwork. There's a contest going. If you donate through PayPal or Patreon to the studio, you will be entered in a contest, and if your name is drawn, you'll be able to pick one of 3 paintings. We have finally